Let's take a closer look at Nagaland. It's a state that presents one of the most fascinating political puzzles in India today. In 2023, you had the ruling alliance secure a really strong, clear mandate. Then, just 1 year later in the national election, it was like that support just evaporated. Now, how does something like that happen? Especially in a state that consistently posts some of the highest voter turnout figures in the entire country. The easy answer is to call it anti-incumbency, but it's much deeper than that. This isn't about voter apathy. It's a powerful, calculated signal from the people. And to really understand what that signal means, we have to look past the political headlines and dive deep into what the data is telling us. So here's how we're going to unpack this together. First, we'll get a feel for the land and its people, because context is everything here. Then we'll get into the specifics, this tale of two very, very different elections. After that, we'll uncover what the voters are really asking for, what their true priorities are. We'll also look at the state's history of shifting alliances to see the patterns. And finally, we'll put it all together into a clear blueprint for any leader or party that wants to earn back trust. All right, first things first, before we can even begin to talk about votes, parties, and alliances, we have to understand the place itself. Nagaland is not like any other state. Its unique history, its geography, its social fabric, all of it comes together to shape everything from daily life right up to its political identity. Just look at this map, at this terrain. Nagaland is a state of beautiful but very rugged hills. And this isn't just a pretty picture on a postcard. It's the daily reality for its nearly 2 million residents. This geography makes building and maintaining even the most basic infrastructure, we're talking roads, power lines, water pipes, a constant, difficult, and expensive battle. So you have to understand, connectivity here isn't something that's taken for granted. It is a hard-won and often fragile achievement. Now, the social fabric here is just as unique as the landscape. Demographically, the state is remarkably uniform. About 90% of the population belongs to indigenous Naga tribes, and around 88% identify as Christian. So what does this actually mean for politics on the ground? Well, it means that the big, sweeping ideological battles that dominate the national news cycle often take a backseat here. Instead, politics becomes intensely personal, intensely local. It's built on community networks, on clan loyalties, and most importantly, on personal trust between the voter and the candidate. And this brings us to a really crucial point about the people's engagement. Look at that number for the state elections, a voter turnout of nearly 86%. That is phenomenal. This is not the sign of an apathetic or disconnected electorate. Absolutely not. It's the sign of a deeply invested one. They are watching, they are participating, and when they vote, they are sending a message. This high level of engagement is a powerful expression of informed public speech, a core value of our Constitution. The people are using their voice with responsibility. The much lower turnout you see for national polls, that's not a lack of interest either. It's a very clear statement of priority. For the people of Nagaland, all politics is local. Okay, so with that context in mind, let's dive into the core of the puzzle. We have this highly engaged, locally focused electorate. Now let's see the two very different stories they told at the ballot box, just 1 year apart. Here it is, the puzzle in black and white. In the 2023 state assembly election, the ruling NDA alliance wins a strong, clear mandate, 37 out of 60 seats. That's a solid victory by any measure. But you fast forward just 1 year to the 2024 national election for the state's single parliamentary seat. And what happens? The very same alliance doesn't just squeak by with a loss. They lose by a significant margin of over 6.5%. It's a complete and absolutely stunning reversal of fortune. And this brings us right to the central question we have to answer. How does a government with such a strong and recent mandate lose so much ground so fast? What could possibly have changed in just 12 short months? Was it a massive failure of the government? Or was it a fundamental shift in the priorities of the people? Or, as is often the case, was it a bit of both? This is what we really need to unpack. So what really happened in those 12 months? The answer, you'll find, isn't in the high-level political speeches or the party manifestos. It's found on the ground, in the villages, in the daily lives of ordinary people. And what the data reveals is a massive growing disconnect between what the political class is talking about and what the people actually care about. You see, for years, the headlines coming out of Nagaland have been dominated by one single issue, the long-pending Naga political solution. It's a hugely important issue, no doubt, but what our surveys on the ground are showing is that for many people, and especially for the youth, that's not what's keeping them up at night anymore. Their concerns are far more immediate, far more tangible.
A new generation is rising, and they're starting to ask new and different questions of their leaders.
And what are those questions? They're about jobs, good jobs, and sustainable livelihoods. They're about basic, fundamental infrastructure, roads that you can actually drive on, drains that actually work, and clean, piped water coming to your home. They're about having reliable electricity when you're facing 4-hour power cuts every single day. And they're about being able to see a doctor when you're sick in a state where, believe it or not, the very first medical college was only approved in 2022. These aren't abstract political demands. They are the fundamental building blocks of a dignified modern life.
This quote from the analysis, I think, captures the core issue perfectly. It says that campaigns must address tangible development dots alongside traditional political issues. You can't win the people's trust anymore by only talking about big, abstract, decades-old political goals. You have to connect the dots of development, the real, daily life issues that people face. A campaign that ignores these tangible grievances isn't really talking to the people, it's just talking to itself.
Now, this shift in voter priorities is happening inside a political system that has always been incredibly fluid. So to truly understand the shock of 2024, we have to look at the patterns of the past. Nagaland's politics is, and for a long time has been, a story of constantly shifting coalitions. No one stays on top forever. This timeline really tells the story. It shows just how fluid political power is in the state. You go from a Congress landslide back in the 90s to the rise of a very powerful regional party, the Naga People's Front, or NPF. Then you see the NPF's own dominance give way to the current alliance led by the NDPP and the BJP. The lesson here is crystal clear. Power in Nagaland rarely stays in one place for very long. It shifts, it gets renegotiated, it adapts to what the people are demanding. And that's really the key takeaway here. With very few exceptions, governments in Nagaland are built on alliances. But if you look closer at the 2023 results, you'll see something else that's very interesting. The emergence of several smaller parties winning seats. This isn't just statistical noise. It's a clear signal. It tells us that voters are not permanently locked into the major players. If they feel their main concerns are not being addressed, they are actively looking for and are willing to vote for alternatives. This makes the political ground here incredibly fertile for change. So, given this entire context, a highly engaged public with very tangible needs, and a very fluid political system, what is the path forward? How can any political party, incumbent or opposition, earn back the trust that was so clearly withdrawn in 2024? The data points us towards a very clear blueprint. The blueprint for earning trust really has 3 core pillars. First, and most obviously, tackle the core issues head-on. Don't just make vague promises about jobs, water, and power. Show people a credible, detailed plan for how you're actually going to deliver them. Second, you have to rebuild trust from the ground up. Get out of the capital, hold town halls in every district, listen more than you speak. This kind of direct engagement builds dignity and consent, which is the foundation of trust, echoing principles found in frameworks like India's digital data privacy laws. And third, communicate that plan clearly and constantly. Be transparent about your goals, build in accountability, and let people see the progress for themselves. And there is also a new, incredibly powerful opportunity for connection. In 2023, for the first time in its entire history, Nagaland elected 2 women as MLAs. This is so much more than just a historic milestone. It is a strategic opening. These new leaders are in a unique position to connect with segments of the electorate that have long been overlooked. They can bring fresh perspectives and new energy to governance. They are a powerful symbol of change and a huge asset in the mission to rebuild public trust.
And this leaves us with one final crucial thought to consider. What the experience in Nagaland teaches us is that high voter engagement is not a blank check for any government. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's a sign of a demanding, watchful public that expects and demands results. The voters of Nagaland are sending a very clear message, not just to their own leaders, but to leaders everywhere. A mandate isn't a gift. It is a trust that must be earned and re-earned every single day through real governance that makes a tangible, visible difference in people's lives. If you want to become a people-centric leader and uplift your constituency, get in touch with blueprintstrategies.ai at mgr@blueprintstrategies.ai or call 080-4204-1602. Purpose beyond politics.